While the ongoing pandemic has posed huge challenges for us at PVPA to stay connected as a community of students and artists, our becoming familiar with how to do that while not together physically has actually opened doors. The Visual Art and Technical Theater Department has taken this opportunity to reach out to a network of artists that extends far beyond our region. Each week we'll be talking with a different artist who will share stories of their path to and through the arts. And in doing this, our students will get a chance to see where the work that we do at PVPA might lead them in the future.
Michael, I would like you to introduce yourself, please, and please tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Michael Lehrman. I'm a VFX producer. Right now I'm working at CBS on the Barrymore Show. But before that, I was at Marvel. I worked on 5 or 6 of their TV shows. And let's see, before that, I worked at Bethesda Softworks as a video game producer. So I've kind of bounced around between a few different industries, but it's all, related to kind of visual storytelling kind of stuff. So video games, TV, movies.
That's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been out here in LA for almost 4 years. And yeah.
So could I ask, how did you get started with this and what is your background?
Sure. So let's see. I went to school for a few different things. I changed my major 4 times when I was in college. So among those 4 majors were little bits of film, animation, computer programming, photography, and then some linguistics at the end, but that hasn't really applied to my current career at all. So I remember there's an assignment that I did in 5th grade where we had to fill out like a, I think it was like a message to our future self kind of thing. And one of the questions was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I put that I wanted to work on special effects on movies like Star Wars. And so I've had kind of a roundabout journey, but I've ended up pretty much right where I said. So I was at Bethesda for 5 years. And yeah, then I wanted a change of pace kind of. So my brother lives out here in LA and he asked me, he's been trying to get me to move out here for a while. And so I came out and looked for jobs in film and TV and found something on Jessica Jones, which is one of the Marvel TV shows. So I did that for a year, and then you kind of move on from show to show every 8 or 9 months. So I went from Jessica Jones to Daredevil, back to Jessica Jones again, then Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, a new show called Hellstrom, and then now on to the Drew Barrymore Show.
That's incredibly impressive. Can you elaborate a bit more about what a VFX producer is and the kind of work that you have been doing. And I am with you as well.
Yeah, so I can show you some of what we've done. I have some clips from the Runaways, and I have some clips from Drew Barrymore. So basically, my job as a VFX producer is to, so VFX stands for visual effects. It's anything that you're adding on after the material has been filmed. So, you know, in a superhero movie, if you're adding, lightning bolts coming out of someone's fingers, or big explosions, or spaceships, or dinosaurs, anything that you weren't actually filming there on the set that you're adding in later. And so that all happens in post-production after all the filming has wrapped. And so my job as the VFX producer is to make sure all of that gets done, make sure it looks good. I kind of act as a in-between between the show's executives and the artists working on it. I get everyone to look at the shots as they come in and give notes if they think something should be different, or get approval, or all of that kind of coordination and management. So a lot of my job on the Marvel side was, we would get new versions of a shot and we would review it and say, oh, the lightning bolts need to be brighter in this area, and oh, they forgot to paint out this wire that you can see, running down the guy's shirt from his microphone, or anything like that. We would kind of look through frame by frame and make sure everything had been done correctly.
Great. Did you want us to show us something, or?
Yeah. Well, let me share my screen. So let me pull up. Here we go. Share. So I'm going to play this. This is a trailer for the Runaways show, which is the one that I worked on last year.
Okay.
And I can kind of pause it at certain points and explain how we did certain shots, and I can show you some kind of behind the scenes parts of them. So I'll just start from the beginning.
Stop fighting, Nico. There is no need to be afraid of the dark.
So I'll start right there. So that first scene was, here, let me share a different screen now. Here. So that was all done on a mixture of green screen and blue screen. So they're basically the same. It's just you use different colors depending on, a few different sorry. Okay. You can use green screen. Green screen is more common these days. The reason we used blue screen for that one was that Morgan Le Fay, the character there, was wearing a green dress. And so if we had used the green screen and she was wearing a green dress, it would just disappear. We wouldn't see her at all. So here's me. We have to place these little markers on the green screen, which is for the computer later to track how the camera was moving. Basically, it kind of follows each one of these points, and then as the camera moves, those points move, and the computer does calculations to figure out exactly how to match that move exactly. So this clip is from when we were shooting that scene. Let's play that.
3, 2, 1, action.
so you can see here is what we were filming, and there was kind of a, we'll see it on the other side. You can see here is kind of a pre-visualization of what it looks like. This isn't what it looked like in the end, but we were basically, anything where you see blue, we're replacing it with this computer generated environment, which actually the guy in the back here is controlling. This was using something called Unreal, which is a video game engine. So he's basically controlling a video game on this computer here, which has this 3D environment, and he's matching what the camera move is doing so that they kind of line up. And then we went back and redid it for the final show, but this was useful on the set to be able to kind of see something close to what it would look like in the end. Let me go back to the trailer. So
When the ship blew up, the magistrate's family took new bodies. And you think that the aliens are inside our parents? There is a fourth
this one, I don't have any photos of it from behind the scenes, but basically we had a big green platform here over the pool that she was walking on. And then we kept the camera in the same position and we removed the platform, so it was just the pool, and then filmed again, so that we could, anywhere there was the green, we could replace with the other clip to show the water behind it.
member of the family, the darkest and most dangerous of them all. Darkness is surrounding. Who's the host? It could be one of the kids. How do we know who he's inside of? We don't.
That explosion was actually one of the few actual explosions we did. Usually that's done as a computer effect, but here they set up some explosives on the set, and here a slow-mo video of it.
Wow.
So these are not the actual actors, these are stunt doubles dressed like them. So they're trained, they know how to, react safely and kind of protect themselves.
This is gonna be fun. I know what you want. You don't want to lose Nico to the darkness. But the thing is, she's been
It's 12 o'clock.
Darkness is surrounding. Who are you?
And what the hell have you done?
Is the warning?
So
Wow.
I can show some more, let's see. So you saw a dinosaur in that trailer. So here's, not this one. Here we go. So the dinosaur on the set was this big puppet, this big remote controlled kind of robotic puppet.
Wow.
Sounds good. Mark.
So you'll see once he walks in, it's kind of attached to this guy. He has this big vest on. And he's controlling all the movements of the dinosaur. And it's like 70 or 80 pounds. So he has these weights on his back to kind of counterbalance it so he doesn't fall over. So for the dinosaur, we would try and do as much stuff with the puppet as possible, just because it ends up costing less money to have it, if we're only seeing the head or, it's not the full dinosaur, we would use the puppet. But a lot of times the producers of the show felt the puppet looked too fake. So even when we used the puppet, we would have to replace it with a computer generated dinosaur. So some of the scenes are puppets, some of them are CG. And we had to make sure that they matched close enough that it wouldn't be too jarring to watch. Here's me with the puppet.
It's so cute.
So when it wasn't being used, it was on this kind of wheel rig that they could just roll it around. Let's see, what other clips? There was one thing we needed to scan the actors in 3D to build a 3D model of them. So here's that scanning process. Basically, the actors stood in this giant ring of I think it was 149 cameras all pointing inside.
Forward a very small amount.
So you'll see
Lean back. That's good right there.
he's standing there.
3, 2.
Each of these is a camera. They all took a picture at the same exact time, and then it goes into the computer here. Oops. And you can see all the different images, and then the computer takes that and turns it into a 3D model. So yeah,
Wow.
that's all the Runaways stuff. And so these days I'm working on the Drew Barrymore Show, which is a very different type of project. There's no
We've got some wonderful comments. Okay.
So what do you use for the characters' powers? So we actually used different things for each one. So, there's one character, Carolina, the blonde girl. She can like shoot light beams kind of out of her hands, and sometimes her body will glow. And so that's a combination of a few different things. Some things we do in software called Nuke, which is it's a professional VFX software where you go into the computer, you can add, all sorts of artistic things into your shot. Some of it we do in 3D, which basically means they go into a program like Maya, and they have computer generated objects that they'll place into the shot. It's kind of this whole team of people. You have 3D artists, you have 2D artists, you have comp artists. A comp artist is someone who takes all the different pieces. So, the 3D artist will make the glowing bubble that Carolina shoots at someone. But it's just the bubble that they made. It doesn't interact with anything. And so it'll come to a comp artist who takes the different pieces. They take the original footage, they take the computer generated piece, and they make a composite. Basically, they kind of, if you've heard of Photoshop, it's like that, but you're doing it, to a much more than one picture. And they kind of blend them together and make it match the way the camera moved, and do color correction, all these things to make it look as real as possible in the end. But there's dozens of different programs that people use. I'm not familiar with all of them. Each of the characters' powers may have gone to different, we work with various VFX vendors, like VFX studios. So some powers were with one studio, some powers were with another studio. Sometimes if we had multiple characters using their power in the same shot, we would have to send it to one studio first and then get the final back from them and then send it back to the other one to do the other character. So yeah, but some of the main programs people use are Nuke, After Effects. After Effects is a good one to like learn VFX if you're interested. You can kind of play around with clips you shoot on like an iPhone or something, and you can do lots of cool stuff with After Effects. There's Flame, there's all sorts of different ones.
That's great. What is the 3D print of someone made out of? So you mentioned there were a lot of cameras involved in that.
Yes. So the 3D, so we did a 3D scan of that actor, which they could do a print of it if we needed one. They can put it through a 3D printer, and it uses some kind of plastic composite to print it out layer by layer. But we weren't printing anything. We did the scan to bring it into the computer as a 3D model, which they then place into the shot and render it. You know, if the character is doing something that we can't have the actor do, or we can't have a stunt actor do, you know, if he jumped out of a 30-story building, we would do that in 3D. We wouldn't do it as a stunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're still using stunts.
Yeah,
especially with the live explosives.
Yeah.
Wow. So what is different? How is the Drew Barrymore Show different from what you were working on?
So it's very different. You know, there's not as much of the kind of creative, you know, conceptual art stuff. You know, we're not making a dinosaur. We're not adding superpowers to people coming in. It's a much more kind of technical, realistic thing. So basically, Drew Barrymore, she had a talk show that was going to start this year, but because of COVID, everything in the whole industry got put on hold. And so as things started coming back, I'm sure you've seen, you know, lots of shows are having lots of guests on Zoom or things like that. And Drew didn't want to just have another show with Zoom guests. And so what we did was we kind of designed a way to have, you know, if there's a guest in LA that she wants to have on the show, but they don't feel safe flying to New York because they film in New York, we have a separate stage here in LA where they can come in, and using the effects, we make it look like the person is sitting there with her on the stage. So let me pull up a clip for you guys. So here's a little clip behind the scenes that they put out on YouTube.
This moment has made me become someone that I never thought I could be, let alone
That's me. Wearing your masks.
Oh, that's great.
Which is someone who sought out every technological advancement. We have this really interesting 2020 mechanism that I'm really Thrilled to introduce you to.
So basically what you saw here
Thought I could.
we have this stage here in LA. The walls are green. It's our digital stage. We've kind of recreated part of her set here. And we have the same chair that she has in New York. So when the camera is pointing in here, anything that's green gets erased in the computer and replaced with what the camera in New York is seeing. So then,
let alone would be, which is someone who,
if you line up both of the cameras so that they're shooting everything at the same angle, you know, anything that was green is now replaced with the New York shot. So you can see here, it's not quite lined up yet. It looks a little weird, but
who sought
I'll
out
show
every
you
technological advance.
another clip where it shows how it looked when it actually aired. So here's a segment that Entertainment Tonight did on the show.
Drew Barrymore, with her 3D technology, is taking it next level because her guests are 3,000 miles away. Drew, thank you for inviting me to your set. Kinda.
Thank you for showing up, Kevin. Kind of.
This is really amazing.
I'm so proud of this technology. I think this is really groundbreaking visually. I
So-
think this is really groundbreaking.
You can see this is what it actually looks like in LA, but then the computer will go in and
I think this is really groundbreaking
that's what the final shot looks like. It looks like they're both together.
visually. It's just incredible.
So welcome inside Drew's virtual interview room. We're in LA, the show's in New York, but you see that white chair up there on the set? Boom, it's right here. All right, let me show you how this works. Any of Drew's guests here in LA, they can walk onto the set and boom, like that, you're face to face with Drew. To make all this work, CBS VFX is literally sending data across fiber lines at the speed of light. Let me take you to the next level. See this camera right here? Every move that this camera makes is mimicked by another camera just like it, 3,000 miles away in New York. Cameron Diaz was, of course, the first guest to take a seat in the white chair for that big Charlie's Angels reunion.
So here, Drew and Lucy Liu were both actually in New York. They were there on the set, but Cameron Diaz was here in LA. In real life in New York, there wasn't a chair here. It was just the two of them and then an empty space. And then in LA, we were filming Cameron on the chair and we comped it in. So it looked like she was there.
And just moments before I stepped into the virtual interview room, Drew's ex-husband, Tom Green, was here. The exes reunite for the first time in nearly 2 decades tomorrow on the Drew Barrymore Show.
So that's kind of a basic explanation of what we're doing on that show. I have another clip here of James Corden, where they were kind of playing around with the green screen.
I'm so thrilled to be talking with you here today in this studio. And I was wondering if I could try to give you a hug, please, because I know that it's breaking the rules, but
I don't know if we're allowed to do that. I don't know if we're allowed. We can try.
even if there's a little bit of distance kept between us,
There might be a way. How do I do this?
we could stick our tushies out and
There you go. Look, hang on. And wait. There you go. Yeah. Oh, it's a great hug. That's a
would it
great
be
hug.
okay if I just got inside of you?
That's sure. There you are. Look at that. Step forward.
What is wrong with me? I had it. Darn it. I love doing the ghost. Can I throw you a pillow?
Sure.
Or can you throw me a pillow?
I'll throw you a pillow. You ready? Hang on. Okay. You
From
ready?
Los Angeles
I'll throw
to
you
New
now.
York.
1, 2, 3.
I'm very hungry.
Oddly, I do.
Wait,
What are the chances?
is that an apple?
I'm never without an apple.
That is.
Do you want this apple?
Yes, I do. I'm very hungry.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
Cheers. Thank you enough. I remember when we were getting to.
So let me show you a little bit of how we did that. So here's.
There might be a way. There might be a way. How do I do this?
So basically, when we're on the set, that's what the guest is looking at. That's the camera looking at Drew, so they can see each other. This is the camera looking at the guest, so Drew can see the guest. This is a shot of what it will look like in the end. So here's James comped into the shot with Drew. Now, we can only hear one side of the conversation in this clip because James has an earpiece, which is how he hears Drew, but they don't want any other sound playing in there because then you would hear it on his mic as well. So we'll only hear James here.
There you go, look, hang on. Wait. There, that's a great hug. That's a great hug. There you are, look at that.
Wow.
Hang on, if I stand here and you hide behind me and you step forward, it will look like you've walked through me. Watch, go right behind me. Take a step to your left. Okay, right, now put your arms down. Step back one bit, step back, step back, step back, step, and then there, and now go back where you were. Okay, there, and now just step forward.
So
This is so amazing to be able to see this, and it's so, on the front lines. This is the first time, yes, in the COVID-19 that this is being done. Is that correct?
yeah. This is the first time anyone's done this kind of live. People have been using green screen for years and years, but it's not really done like this until now. It's kind of similar to, when you're watching the weather and you see the weatherman, they're standing up there in front of the big map and they're pointing to things, but really they're not. They're standing in front of a green screen and then the computer is putting it in. But with ours, you can have the camera moving, you can have multiple cameras and they're kind of talking to each other in real time. So it's different.
Yeah. And so how is the show doing?
The show's doing well, I think. There's been a lot of press about the virtual guest stuff that we're doing. So that's been cool. It sounds like a few other shows are interested in using the same technology. And so they're kind of getting in touch with us and seeing if we can do the same thing for them, which is exciting.
Can you drop any names or not yet?
Of people that have come into the show, we've had Cameron Diaz, you saw James Corden, Tom Green, we had Paris Hilton, there was a veterinarian who came in. He brought a dog. That was fun. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be more as we go.
Yeah. So in comparison to what you were doing before, are you enjoying what you're doing?
I am enjoying it. It's very different, but it's kind of it's instead of just doing the same thing, you know, it's kind of a new area to explore. We're not just putting lightning bolts in or explosions or, you know, anything like that. We're figuring out a new way to do production during these crazy times.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's been
Go ahead.
it's just been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it a lot.
Okay, students, do you have any questions about what you've just seen or what Michael's doing? You can write them in the chat. And
No, I'm not famous.
okay. So do you see your art form changing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the whole industry is going to change due to the pandemic. But you know, some things stay the same. The new pieces are all about how to get lots of people in the same place, because we can't really do that safely right now. You know, it used to be you would have, you know, sometimes 200 people all in the same room in this big sound stage, all breathing the same air and, you know, standing shoulder to shoulder. And it seems like right now that's not something that we can do. So all sorts of productions are trying to figure out how to kind of fake that so that they can still make movies and TV shows and make it look like people are standing together when on the set they can't. So they're looking into ways to do, you know, simulations for big crowds of people where they don't have actual people there. It's all done in the computer. Or like what we're doing, they're trying to get guests in the same room, even though they can't travel across the country to actually be in the same room.
Yeah.
So lots of productions are looking into new ways to do stuff like that. I'm sure the way we used to do things will continue as well. You know, there will always be superhero shows and, you know, the more traditional visual effects, but it'll be interesting to see all the new stuff that comes out as well.
Are you still working for Marvel Studios or Netflix?
No, so the last show that I did for Marvel is about to air, I think next week actually. And then that was the last show that I worked on with them.
Mm-hmm. What's the show?
It's called Hellstrom. It's based on an old comic that I had never read before the show. But yeah, I think that'll be on Hulu.
Okay. Are there any funny stories about what can go wrong?
What can go wrong? Sure. So on the Drew Barrymore show, the way that's working, you saw in that clip, they showed like a quick shot of the control room in the back there.
Yeah.
So one of those pieces of equipment, it's called an ultimat, and it's what takes out the green and puts in the other shot. I went in the day before one of our shoots to make sure everything was, you know, all good, and I was doing some setup and stuff, and I noticed that one of our ultimats had stopped working, and so it was kind of lucky that I was there because there wasn't really much need for me to be there, and you know, we could have just shown up the next day with, you know, Cameron Diaz there, and then nothing would have worked. So, you know, I got everyone to come in and figure out what was going on, and we fixed the issue, and then we were all good for the next day.
Well, that's cool. Martin, you have a question you wanted to ask Michael?
Sure. Hi, Michael. One thing I'm curious about is in looking at our student body. Many of them are like 5 to up to 10 years away from where they might be exploring getting involved in something like this professionally. So if a student already thinks like, I love the idea of being an FX person, given how quickly technology is changing, what are the things that have like stayed the most constant in terms of the skills that you've built, and like what should students be trying to build familiarity with as soon as possible?
Sure, that's a good question. So, you know, you're right. Technology is always changing, and it seems like it's changing faster and faster. But kind of the basic skills behind it, you know, the artistic skills, drawing, you know, modeling, stuff like that, is kind of consistent. So you might be using After Effects instead of Photoshop, but you'll still be using your same artistic skills. So something that they can do, you know, to prepare for that is just work on their art in general. You know, a good artist will be good whatever the software is that they're using. And so, you know, you'll learn these programs either in school or, you know, you can download trial versions and try them out at home. But as long as your kind of foundational skills are there, I think you'll be able to figure it out. If that helps at all.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is great information for our students. And, you know, a lot of our students do go into the arts professionally. I mean, we've been in business for 25 years now, and, you know, things are always changing. But it's really good information. It's a wonderful opportunity for them to have this, you know, frontline conversation. I understand there's a question. Isabel, do you have a question about lighting? Do you want to ask Michael your question?
Yeah, that's actually a huge issue when we're doing stuff on the green stage there that you saw. So that's something that the Ultimat helps with a little bit. It has, it's called it's despilling. So basically all that green light that's bouncing off the wall, we call it spill. It's kind of spilling on and coloring everything green. So the Ultimat despills the image. It kind of takes out some of the green, but it's never perfect. So what we can do is go in afterwards with a program and kind of tweak the colors further to get it to look more normal. So what they'll do sometimes is they'll have a color card, which is just this card with little squares of all different colors that you know exactly what those colors are, so you can use that to kind of measure how wrong the image is, and they can use that to tweak it until all those colors are correct.
Thank you. What advice do you have for students who are interested in entering this field?
I think just kind of experiment with, you know, there's, like I said, there's lots of free trials for different types of software. You can download After Effects and just kind of play around with it. There's millions and millions of YouTube tutorials, and you know, they're really informative and really useful just to start from basically from zero, and you can learn some basic things and then, you know, kind of move on from there. And yeah, you don't need like a big fancy film set with, you know, $1 million cameras. You can use your iPhone or, you know, whatever, and then load the clips into After Effects and, you know, add whatever you want. You can add explosions or make someone disappear or, you know, make it so it looks like there's two of you. You know, you can do whatever you can imagine. So.
And so are the students in effect building a portfolio of work for themselves?
Yeah. So when applying for jobs at VFX houses or vendors, they definitely would look at a portfolio to see what kinds of work you've done before. And if they think that that's the kind of stuff that they need more of, then they'll definitely be interested.
Wow, great. And
So,
I love, go ahead.
For their portfolio, a lot of people have what's called a reel, which is basically like a 4 or 5 minute clip, 4 or 5 minute video with like clips of different things that they've done over their career. So you know, you'll pick the coolest shots that you've worked on that really show off your skills, and kind of edit it all down into this, you know, 4 minute clip that kind of really sells your work and like makes you look good, and you know, you kind of choose all your best moments and put them all in there.
That's amazing. It's great to think of a portfolio in this medium. And you know, traditionally when we've helped students build portfolios with hard copy, you know, we tell them to start big and end big. Would they follow the same advice?
Start big and end big. Yeah, in the reel. Yeah, that would be good. You know, kind of catch people's attention, and then have something that they'll, you know, leave them remembering this last big moment. That'd be good for a reel.
Great. Students, do you have anything else you would like to ask Michael?
What do I love most about my work? It's kind of like I go in every day and there's like this puzzle that needs to be solved. You know, sometimes that's very technical, like you know, oh, you know, we have all these different pieces that need to be combined into this one image. You know, sometimes there's, you know, some wire is crossed and we need to go rooting through all the different cables and figure out what's going on. Sometimes it's, you know, something's wrong with the software. But there's always kind of something to figure out and get working.
So you enjoy the problem solving aspect.
Yeah.
Do you get to work both from home and in studios?
Yeah, I go in for when we're shooting, but we're only shooting, you know, a couple days a week. Everything else I'm doing from home.
Okay, great. And do you get calls in the middle of the night?
Not on this job. I did when I was working on video games when I was at Bethesda, but no, we're not as 24/7 here.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody wanted to ask in our last couple of minutes here? How do you stay positive during COVID? And is that a pun?
That's a good question. So, you know, work-wise, part of it is just everyone I work with is, you know, pleasant and, you know, easy to work with. Drew Barrymore is like the nicest person you could ever meet. I thought it was, you know, before I met her, I assumed that that's just kind of like her on-screen persona, but she's like that in real life. Everyone says she's like the greatest person. So she kind of keeps things very positive. And then outside of work, just kind of, you know, I play with my dog and I go on walks and, you know, wear a mask and stay as safe as possible. So
That's wonderful.